Hello, Stephanie, and thank you so much again for accepting our invitation to the ARDD sponsor interview. But even more, thank you so much for becoming the sponsor of ARDD. At Tier 3, we are more than grateful on behalf of the team that you're supporting us, and we can't wait for your talk. Because thanks to sponsors like you, ARDD is happening, and we can grow and we can make more people and companies connected to move the longevity needle forward. So without further ado, can you please tell me more about Seraphina Therapeutics? What's your story? What's your vision? Bring it on.
Sure, absolutely, Dominique. It's wonderful to be here, and we're honored to sponsor ARDD. Just an amazing group of people bringing, that you're bringing together, and we really appreciate everything that you do. So with Seraphina Therapeutics, we're a life sciences company, and we are helping to bring newly discovered essential fatty acids to the market, to the people, through increasing credibility, accessibility, and awareness. And so this is a big meeting where we're increasing awareness about our lead molecule and nutrient, which is pentadecanoic acid, or C15. So we're excited to be able to chat about that, educate this community about it, and it's a fun story.
It's more than a fun story. And for everybody who doesn't know, we're actually speaking with Stephanie on a very important week, because just a few days ago, a major paper about C15 was published that got me so excited because as far as I am concerned, this is the biggest discovery of this type since almost 100 years, like 75 years or something like this. So can you please tell me more, Stephanie, to somebody who has not been introduced to this huge thing, what has just happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So we just discovered the first nutritional deficiency syndrome in over 75 years. So you're thinking like vitamin C and scurvy and vitamin D and rickets. It's been a long time since we've identified nutrients that are so critical and so essential to our health that without it, our health actually falls apart and declines. And this really hits in the heart of the longevity space, because as we've learned about C15, that it is core to actually helping us live longer. It explains how humans live longer than mice. So I'll step back a little bit to share about what is C15, right? C15 is an odd chain saturated fatty acid. It is the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in over 90 years. We published that back in 2020 in scientific reports, and we now know that its essentiality has a lot to do with it. It's a pleiotropic molecule that has a lot of benefits at the cellular level. If we talk about its direct relevance to longevity, we now know that C15 is an mTOR inhibitor, an AMPK activator. It helps to stem 6 of the hallmarks of aging. We actually put it head to head along with Dr. Nick Shork. We did a study. We put C15 head to head against 3 leading longevity molecules, which were rapamycin, metformin, and carbose. And Dominica, we showed that it was C15 had more clinically relevant cellular benefits than even those 3 longevity molecules. So that was all been super exciting. But then, as we would expect for a molecule that's truly essential, right, a nutrient that we truly need, that means that if we don't get enough of it, that we fall apart. And we develop a disease. So that is what we just published of what we found, and it's called cellular fragility syndrome. And C15 plays a core role in stabilizing our cell membranes and preventing lipid peroxidation and a downstream process called ferroptosis. So we can go into more of that if you would like, but ferroptosis is a new method of cell death that was discovered by scientists at Columbia University back in 2012. Since then, there have been over 10,000 papers on ferroptosis, and nobody's really understood, like, where did it come from and why are we getting it? We're now understanding that ferroptosis is actually part of a C15 deficiency syndrome. So excited to get the word out. And I'm going to stop talking because I'd love for you to, you can tell me where you'd like to go from here.
No, honestly, I wish you wouldn't, because it's been so fascinating. And with every single sentence you said, I was just, okay, these are three more questions that I need to ask about this.
Right.
And if we went this way, it would have been a 3 hour interview or more, which is also in the plans. So everybody who wants that, just stay tuned on ARDD channels. But so okay, C15. We get it from diet, as you said, right? So, but I'm sure that of course, our diets in the 21st century are just wrecked for most of the people. But I also have seen on the website of Seraphina Therapeutics that you've developed a supplement. Is it true? Can you say more about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a supplement. This was developed actually and discovered when I was at the Navy, working with Navy dolphins. And so this discovery is actually the US Navy's. And so Seraphina was able to license the ability to be able to bring C15 to the world. And so we're starting with it as a supplement. So we launched Fatty 15, which is the pure C15 supplement, back in 2021. And Dominica has been doing amazingly well. Even though it took until now to get the deficiency paper published, we were witnessing people's response to taking Fatty 15 every day. So, we knew that there's something real in which we're replenishing C15 in people's bodies and seeing effects. We have over a 95% monthly retention rate with customers, which
Wow.
is unheard of. And it's truly because of the science that when people take Fatty 15, the C15 supplement, that over half of them feel better within 2 weeks. So it's been great to be able to have this strong, rigorous science to find something that's relatively simple. It's just a 15 carbon, saturated fatty acid that can have such a meaningful effect, including helping us live as long as possible, because part of this deficiency syndrome is basically it's accelerating our aging, and why we think we're seeing more aging related diseases in younger and younger people. So when we talk about longevity, C15 helps us start by not aging faster than we should.
And this is exactly what we hope to get, and that's the entire point of ARDD. So we are more than happy to hear such results, especially just like you mentioned. Well, this is a type of carbon, like in a very very simplified ways, and so it's been out there all the time, but it did take time to discover. So please, can you tell me the story of how did you discover that this might be a thing?
Yeah, it was by accident. So was not out there looking for a holy grail of healthy aging, right? So I was a veterinary epidemiologist. I was working for CDC and the World Health Organization, and then I was recruited by the Navy to help lead a clinical research program to continually improve aging dolphins' lives. So the Navy has a population of dolphins that they've sustained, about 100 dolphins they've sustained for over 60 years. And they take such good care of them that the dolphins at the Navy live a lot longer than dolphins in the wild. So like dolphins in the wild live to about 20. Dolphins at the Navy are living routinely into their 40s and 50s. So we started seeing older dolphins developing high cholesterol, chronic inflammation, fatty liver disease, even the full suite of changes with Alzheimer's. So this really became a fascinating population to look at aging, right, in a very clean way that was very closely mimicking human aging. So that allowed us, because the dolphins, all they eat are fish, right, and they all live in the same environment, they get the same health care. We were able to go in and use metabolomics on archived serum from the dolphins and be able to look at thousands of small molecules to figure out which small molecules in their diet and in their body predicted the healthiest aging dolphins. And that's where we discovered, and we had discovered about 200 molecules, but among the top 30, and then really among the top 5, was C15. And so it really stood out because we knew it was something that we're getting from their diet. Dolphins get C15 from some fish, but not all. And that's when we started kind of heading down this road. At the same time we were finding this association, Dominica, same thing was popping up on the human side. People with higher C15 levels had a lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes, heart disease, fatty liver disease. So really, even though dolphins or humans are different, they're long-lived large brain mammals that were at the same time undergoing C15 nutritional deficiencies. The dolphins were from the fish they were eating. From us, our main source of C15s from dairy fat. And so we've been decreasing our dairy fat, over the last 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I can remember all the headlines saying that dairy is bad for you, dairy increases acne, inflammation, and of course there is a grain of truth to everything, but we couldn't have expected such a consequence, right? Before we get forward with it, I just have to ask one burning question that I'm sure also appears in the minds of every listener to this. How do you measure things on dolphins? Like, do you actually swoop out the dolphin and then get it a blood test? Or can you tell me a little of a bit of a story behind that?
Absolutely. So the dolphins at the Navy, so they're born there, they're part of the population. They live in the open ocean here in San Diego Bay. And from when they're really little, they're trained to be able to, basically there's a pen structure in San Diego Bay that's their home. And when the veterinarians go down, they're trained to just lift their fluke out of the water, their tail, and it has a wonderful vein. So they're able to just go in and grab blood and then give them a fish and off they go. So they are able to get blood samples from the dolphins as part of their preventative healthcare routine as often as once a month and as rarely as once a quarter. And the Navy was so smart that starting back even as early as the 1990s, they were then routinely archiving the serum from every single one of those pools. And when they did get their blood samples at the time and then ongoing, they are routinely measure over 44 different clinically relevant indices. So think about you and I going to the doctor, we get our CBC and chem, they get all of that plus more. So it's really to the testament of the Navy for being so good with the care. And they also keep the tissues of the dolphins when they pass. So that's how we're able to look under the microscope at things like fatty liver disease and to be able to identify these syndromes.
Wow, okay. So in a very hopeful and actually actionable wish that people will get as good as of a career as the dolphins. Do you think that the biomarker measurement for C15 could be implemented as a part of, let's say, standard GP practice? How do you see the clinical implication of your recent finding?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's critical, right? So if we have a deficiency syndrome, then we need to, and now the paper that came out shows basically how to, what level. So if we have less than 0.2% of the fatty acids in our cell membrane, if less than 0.2% is C15, that cell membrane becomes too fragile. And that's when the whole process of apoptosis kicks in. So we need to be able to measure it. And wonderfully, there has been a test available, which some physicians may not have even known that they were collecting. But the group that we've been working with is called Genova Diagnostics, and they've had a fatty acid panel. And so really anyone collecting fatty acid panels, probably within the last 20 years, it has likely included C15 in that long list of panels. To make it easier, we actually are just working with Genova to release not only a C15 specific test that physicians can use, but there's now also an at-home blood spot test that people can use to be able to measure their C15 levels.
Wow, that's absolutely wonderful. So, so do you think that would be available, like, let's say, in the drugstore, just to get it like this and have it figured out?
Gosh, so we hope to get there. So we're going to start with ordering online. And this one again is through Genova Diagnostics, and it's a C15 test, and that's where they have a physician be able to help approve giving out the diagnostic or having the diagnostic test sent to your home. So it's good, Dominica, because it's going to help identify, hey, most people, globally are at about that 0.2%. So we're right on the edge because of changes in our diet and in agriculture that has moved us to this, 0.2%. So most critical thing, identify people who are deficient. Well, if you're between 0.2 and 0.4, then we're calling that healthy, which is good, kind of where we want to be at. But there's some interesting studies, including in Sardinia, one of the blue zones, longevity blue zones, that's giving us hints that even higher C15, like 0.4 to 0.6%, can really then be used as an optimal level to support longevity. So in Sardinia, this is, it's called the island of centenarians. It's one of the 5 blue zones, longevity zones, and it's the place where the most long-lived men live in the world. And it's because they are less likely to die of heart disease. So those are some really important hints. When a study came out showing that people who live in Sardinia had 0.64%, this is 3 times higher C15 than most of the rest of the world. We then looked at studies looking at their diets, and Dominica, it ends up, they've actually pretty much replaced their meat with cheese. And it's local cheese, so they have goats and sheep that graze in this mountainous area. And there are a lot of other studies showing that grass-grazed sheep, cows, and goats, they make milk with higher C15, and mountainous grass actually leads to higher C15 in milk as well. So Sardinia, it ends up that they are in they have the environment that supports a high C15 diet without necessarily having to get as much of kind of the burden of the pro-inflammatory fats that are coming from multiple sources like meat.
Yeah, you touched on a very important topic here because, well, not everybody has access to such wonderful products as in Sardinia, and then even to supermarkets and funds to buy such products, which are important. So there's definitely a lot of outlets for policy, for agriculture and sustainability to work with this discovery. So I'm also very excited to look at what's on the way. And coming back a little bit to ARDD, and I can't wait to hear more about this on your talk. But ARDD is also, apart from knowledge, which is like the big cornerstone, it's also bringing people together, bringing people in the industry together, so that we have new ideas, new potential ventures, and just exchanging the thoughts that we have about the world. So, are you looking forward to, or are you open to any kind of partnerships or discussions that are specifically centered around Seraphina and helping you grow in longevity as much as possible?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, ARDD is a dream team for us as far as being able to continue to do work. We're already, working with leaders in longevity with regard to Nick Shork, Richard Miller, and others to be able to really make available C15 as much as needed to help support research that's being done in longevity. And really being able to have the conversation of how do we get to, the dolphins were a really good model for discovering molecules with regard to longevity. So it's how can we use this approach, which is very different, right, than kind of finding molecules and putting them in mice and see if they live longer. That is one approach that absolutely makes a lot of sense. There are just other ways that we can also get to understanding longevity and being able to come together and talk about what's most important. How do we define longevity, right? It's like, what are the goals with us? We ask people to take a leap of faith with C15 with regard to because it can delay the onset of chronic diseases, that will help us live longer. And that's, our approach that we're taking. So it will be great to be able to have conversations with this community, and we are open to any and all collaborations to better understand C15's role.
Well, that's absolutely wonderful to hear, and I'm sure you made a lot of people happy with this statement to collaborate. So, what is the next big thing on the agenda? Since you have the supplement, you have the test, you have established that it's so crucial in aging. So, what is the next thing you will hope to celebrate with it?
Right. So it's been a couple of years, and it's again thanks to the dolphins, gifting us with the insights of C15. So the next steps here is we've kind of checked off all these critical boxes: essentiality, that it's a molecule that we can scale up and make available in a pure form. We know that when we take the supplement and take fatty 15, that we can increase our C15 levels and improve health. So we understand its mechanism of action, and now we have this deficiency syndrome defined. So it's really helping to increase awareness, Dominica, of this deficiency syndrome that can be affecting as many as 1 in 3 of us. And the fact that we can have a test so that people can get identified, we can fix this. The upside of deficiencies is that you can test for it, because it's defined, and you can fix it. So right now, our company was originally, like, the big focus was credibility. People can go to discoverc15.com, and that's where we put all the C15 science. And the second then was awareness. And so this is part of that movement. And then the final stage is accessibility. So we started with fatty 15, which has been incredible and wonderful. But now we're working with how to help C15 become an ingredient that can then fortify foods, so that, again, it could be more accessible to lots of people. And the last thing is the movement, kind of like what you're talking about. What changes can we make in the world to help bring C15 back in a high quality way through our foods? So agricultural changes and global recommendations, where they're all still saying that we should avoid all whole fat dairy. So we need to figure out which whole fat dairy is good, which is bad, because we just really don't want to take C15 out of our lives, especially at our youngest times of development.
Oh, definitely. Stephanie, I wish I could ask you so many more questions, but we were running out of time. But please prepare to get attacked by me at the ARDD with so much more in-depth questions. And I will link a lot of your papers and works in the show notes of this video, so that everybody who got as intoxicated with what you were saying as me, so that they could go very much deeply into this. And I can't wait for your talk at ARDD. Thank you so much for sponsoring. Thank you so much for all your work, because, well, it actually seems like you're making a world a better place. And I will use this venue as a big call to everybody who's listening to go check out if your local GP or test center has a test for C15, and then check out Seraphina Therapeutics, because they have a supplement you might need.
Great. Dominica, thank you. This was wonderful.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for all your amazing work.